Alright guys, welcome back to Jerk Block Talk. I'm Jason Fernandez. I'm here with MC Hall. We are here at CrossFit Rife, and today we're going to cover athlete profile number 2. If you haven't watched the first episode that we did, we covered kind of an older demographic dealing with some injuries, so go watch that one. Today we're going to cover a different scenario, and when we do these athlete profiles, really what we're trying to help you do is learn to manage kind of the different scenarios that are going to be walking in the door, so that you can understand psychologically what you're dealing with, and that will allow you to kind of put in place a plan or tailor your behaviors to a specific athlete in order to get the result that you want. So I'm going to let, and again, if this is your first episode watching this, MC is doing these episodes with me because MC has a master's degree in performance psych, so educational background on this. She gets to practice this stuff every day, so she has a lot of good insight, and she's actually the one who kind of builds these profiles when we go through this. So I'm going to let you talk about this profile here, and then we're going to talk about kind of the things we need to worry about.
Awesome. All right, so we've built this younger guy or girl, newer athlete, starting with a few different things that we can do to help this athlete flourish in whatever sport they decide to do, whether it be CrossFit or, sport of choice. Maybe they're a college athlete, maybe they're a high school athlete, but they're might be new to CrossFit or just new in general. So we've kind of built this around that. So
let's talk about some of the hurdles that we're going to have with some of the newer athletes. Like, what are we going to have to kind of deal with when we're talking about younger athletes that are coming in the door? And when we say young guys, we're talking about probably basically the age of like 17 to 25, 26 years old. Still really young, virtually invincible.
Yeah. That's one of the problems we face.
So that is the first hurdle, is that they actually do believe they are invincible, as did I at that age. So, okay, cool. What else do we have to worry about?
Well, we obviously want to keep them safe, so we got to worry about their safety. But mainly just managing them and their mental status as they grow and continue to develop as athletes. Because like baby birds, new athletes, we kind of, coddle them and make sure that they're just like we do with our older athletes, but in a different way. So I think that's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
So I think the big thing to take away from there is like there's a certain naivete that comes with a younger athlete. Like,
absolutely.
They don't know any better. Most of them have yet to, young athletes do get injuries, but by and large, younger athletes, it's just really hard. Like, the human body is an amazing thing, especially when we're talking about younger athletes. Like, they can do a lot of stuff and not get injured. They can move poorly for an extended period of time. They can train. They can overtrain and they won't get injured to some extent. So that is usually what we're battling more than anything, is just that mindset that, like, no harm can be done to them when they walk into the gym and they start slinging weights. So, cool. So let's talk about a couple different things. Let's talk about the three major things, and then we'll dive into each.
Okay, so we're going to start managing expectations, and then we're going to go over, as coaches, watching what you say to these athletes, and then third, emphasizing the process over the results. So all these things are as coaches, so what we can do to help these athletes flourish, right? So first, managing the expectations. We really just want to try to lower the pressure that we put on these newer athletes. So that'll dive into our second point, but as a coach, you should never impose, your expectations onto them, because they, 9 times out of 10, especially at a younger age, will kind of take that a little bit too far. And we don't want to do that. So,
and a perfect example of how this would kind of play out in the gym environment is, I'll be the young athlete who is coming into the gym for the first time. So I'm walking into CrossFit Rife here at the doors. Let's assume that we've kind of done any sort of fundamentals or however you onboard athletes. And then I get in my first class and I have athletes like MC and some of our old, more mature athletes who are crushing weights. And then I'll make the assumption, again, just based on me being naive, that I should be able to do those things. Like, I just want to do that, so I should be able to do that things. that kind of stuff, or I should be able to do RX. Right. So the RX is like, it's a really great thing because it drives performance, but at the same time, it can be problematic if not addressed. So,
and as coaches, we have the authority, or not just the authority, but we have the ability to take away some of that pressure. So, and by managing our expectations as coaches, I think that that's a big step in helping alleviate some of that pressure in the RX category. By just simply saying, hey guys, today this is the workout, this is RX, this is maybe our scale division. Don't get wrapped around the axle on the RX. Like, we're going out here to crush some stuff today, have fun, be safe, move well, and then days in the future, that's when you'll start crushing the RX. If you just, we'll get down to the other.
And I think it's important because I'm a big fan of telling people, I'm not a dream crusher by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm a big fan of like letting people know, like, you should not be able to do this. Like, there's no reasonable expectation that you should have a body weight snatch if you've never touched a barbell, or that you should be able to walk on your hands.
Right.
And it's okay to tell athletes that. Like, again, some people are just going to make an assumption because other people around them that can do it, that they should be able to do it as well. Having never trained it, having never done any of that stuff, we can have a conversation about like that they shouldn't think that. But the fact is they do. So we have to keep that, or take that into consideration, and understand that that thought is going to creep in, and it's your job to remove that thought and tell them that, hey, listen, we're not there yet. There's no reason for you to be there right now, but we can get there.
Using stuff like, just any baseline psychology, tools like positive reinforcement with these athletes. If they did a scale last time and it was a little bit too easy, maybe upping the difficulty on that. First and foremost, safety, but giving them positive feedback, positive reinforcement, that'll obviously help in the long run as well. So, moving on to 2, watch what you say, coaches. Watch what you say to these newer athletes. In sincere efforts, I think as coaches, we put unrealistic expectations on some of our athletes because and this goes to like your beginners to your advanced athletes, but especially those beginners, because they don't know how to manage those expectations yet. So being mindful of the things you say is just ultimately going to help you with them managing those expectations.
And so I've probably gotten a little bit more feedback than most people have gotten on this topic. And so if you don't know, I work on CrossFit seminar staff, teach level 1 certificate course. And this is a mistake I have made in the past. And so I alluded to this a little bit in an episode I did with Amy Davis, talking about how you say things, and talking about we can make assumptions as coaches, or there's just, we get into this habit. We have these athletes in the gym, and you will catch yourself, or somebody else will catch you saying something that seems very, very benign, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning like, this would be a perfect example. All right, guys, we're going to go over the basic air squat, right? So simply by putting the term basic on a movement that somebody very well could struggle with in a very, very real way, immediately sets them up for failure. Or if you give, or if you were to say something like, we're going to go over a simple progression or scale for this, putting simple in front of it, where it may not be simple for this athlete. Again, now if the thoughts start creeping in, and this athlete's thinking, well, fuck, this isn't simple at all. Like, is this supposed to be simple? Like, what the hell is happening?
What's wrong with me?
Yeah, what's wrong with me as the athlete? So
it's presumptuous. You know, you don't want to be that coach that just assumes that this is easy for everyone, because it's not.
Yeah.
And because it's easy for you doesn't mean it's easy for new Johnny or.
And most of you will not do that on purpose. So we're not saying that like you guys are a bunch of assholes if you're watching this. It's just an assumption that we make by just because we're in the gym every day, because it's a subconscious assumption that we make based on like, this is the life that we live now, which is not the life that everybody else lives.
Right.
So like, you just have to really, really be cautious of your verbiage when you have new athletes, because saying things like simple, basic, easy will very likely not be simple, basic, or easy for those athletes. So do yourself a favor. If you have not either like mic'd yourself up or taken video of your classes, I think you should do so. And literally, don't even watch the video. Just literally play it and listen to it. And then from there, you're going to find out that you say things that you didn't even know you were saying. You're going to be saying things like easy, simple, basic, when they may not be. And in certain scenarios, like those things are okay. If I have a group of advanced athletes that are just really, really know what's going on, like that verbiage is appropriate, like because in that scenario, those things are basic or simple or easy. But in a lot of cases, that will not be what's actually happening or what's actually unfolding in that class. So be mindful of that stuff, because you can kind of punch people or beat people up with very, very simple things like that.
Oh yeah, then the gears get turning in their head. You could just see it on their faces. It's all over. Oh, this is easy, and they're like deer in the headlights. Immediately, deer in the headlights.
So, just think about that. It seems to be something that is very harmless, but it actually there are some unintended consequences that can happen when you do stuff like that. So, give it a whirl and just see if you have any things that you use periodically or frequently that may not be ideal. Cool.
All right,
third one.
Moving on. I'm going to emphasize the process over the result. So making manageable goals that help athletes focus on the process instead of the result. Because I think beginner athletes, like we were talking about before, they get wrapped around this axle of, I should be doing this, or I should look like this, or I should be lifting this. And they're just not trusting the process to lead them to that result. They just want to get to the result, and that's it. So as coaches, we need to start kind of reminding those athletes, like, and kind of like guide them down that path, like, hey, I remember being here. Like maybe share your experiences, share where you started, show them pictures of where you started. Remind them how long you've been doing this. Remind them, like Rome wasn't built in a day, right? So same thing. The process is important, results will come.
And if you can teach people to learn to love the process and not necessarily love or yearn for the results, but yearn for the process, that's a recipe for success written all over it. And there's a couple ways that you can facilitate this, and this is one where I think not enough people do this, and as a coach, like this really, really falls on you, is you really have to go out of your way in a lot of scenarios to celebrate those really small victories. It may not be a PR, but celebrate the effort. They may not, lift the weight that they wanted to. I had this conversation yesterday with the classes. We were doing some snatch work, and people weren't hitting PRs, so they're a little bummed. And so when I was doing my debrief with the athletes, you're talking about like, hey, listen, guys, like if you're hitting anything in the vicinity of 90%. On any given day.
It's a good day.
That's a good day.
It's a great day.
And most people don't have any concept of how that works. So celebrate those easy victories and be like, guys, like I know you didn't hit a PR, or some people did, and celebrate that. But like, listen, 90% on any given day, I mean, we can pull Phil on and talk about that. Like, that is a good day when we're talking about weightlifting. On any day, like if you're hitting 90%, and if you're hitting 90% regularly, shit is going well. So celebrate that stuff. And some of the other stuff that you can celebrate is like, I love the saying that is the victory is in the battle, right? So like you may not win, but just literally showing up and putting in effort that day is in and of itself a victory.
Absolutely.
So I think we all kind of know the athlete that's a little bit maybe self-deprecating, a little down on themselves, and they're like, well, I'm not really getting what I want. Something you talk about that athlete is like, well, hey, dude.
They have to be reminded.
Yeah, you were here 5 times this week.
Yeah.
That's more than a lot most people are doing. So, go out of your way. Like I would argue this. If you can't find something to celebrate, like any small victories in your classes, every class that you teach on any given day, you're probably not looking hard enough.
No.
There's
always
there.
something. Always. There's literally not a class that I've taught that there wasn't something.
Yeah.
As small or as large as it is. Like when no one PRs in the class, there's a victory to take away.
Yeah.
And you have to remind them of that because that's not their job. That's our job.
Yeah.
They come here for our professional advice and for our, to hear what we have to say. And I think that it's important as coaches to constantly remind them of that, because otherwise they do get down on themselves.
Yeah. And that's something you can cover in your debriefs afterwards. Like you're going to have...
Debriefs are great.
Yeah, and you'll have seen everything unfold. You'll know what those kind of gems are that you can talk about in the class. And those don't have to go just to the athletes. So that doesn't have to be just me addressing MC and what she did well. Like, you can celebrate that to the class.
Yeah, to the group.
So everybody knows what's going on, because that's just another way to kind of layer on that community piece. And what I can tell the group about MC now goes to everybody. So if I tell her that she hit 90%, that's great. Now the rest of the class is learning that hitting 90% is great. But we also get to celebrate what she's done personally, but lay on some knowledge and manage that expectation, which is what we talked about at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So they don't walk away feeling defeated, because we all know if we've been doing CrossFit long enough, or even not that long, that like there's a lot of like days when you don't do well, right? Like you don't crush the workout.
More days than when you crush.
Yeah. So it's your job to make sure that people understand, like, that's not realistic. Like, I mean, unless this is like your day job and you train.
You're going to the games.
Yeah.
I mean, those are different caliber athletes, and that's a different level of expectation.
That's probably not going to happen on most days, especially when we're mixing the modalities the way we are, and we're doing high skill gymnastics, complex weightlifting movements, doing stuff that people just hate to do, long monostructural stuff. Yeah, there's going to be some stuff that we chalk up in the loss column, but if you can kind of understand that is a victory because they came in and got it done, and it could be something where, like, hey, like, I know, you hate rowing, but you did PR your 2K time by 5 seconds, like, and that's a big deal in rowing, So again, kind of laying that out and making an effort to really emphasize the process. And this is something, so you'll understand this, and if you've been doing this for a while, emphasizing the process, managing expectations is different for a new athlete than it is for an experienced athlete.
That'll be our next profile.
Yeah, so you have to understand that game changes when the PRs don't come as frequently, or they come in smaller increments, or they just change the way they look completely, where it's not just completing a movement. We're not talking about task accomplishment anymore. Now we're talking about cleaning up a movement. So now the victory is not like, could you do it? Yeah, you could do it 6 months ago, but now you can do it beautifully. It's very efficient. We're not wasting any energy when we do something. So some good takeaways here. Anything else you want to add?
No, I think we covered it all.
Cool. So we'll recap that real quick. So again, we're talking about a younger, newer athlete to CrossFit. Biggest hurdle that we have to kind of jump over here is these athletes are pretty naive. They don't really understand what they're capable of, what they should and shouldn't be able to do at that point. Most of their expectations are unrealistic, like they want to crush the world and they think they're invincible. So 3 things we kind of really need to think about and take into account. Number 1 is you have to manage expectations. Really have a no shit conversation about, like, yeah, these are the things that that I think you are capable of doing, but this kind of stuff is going to be later on down the road. Like, have that conversation. Be careful what you say, saying things like easy, simple, basic, like, be careful with that stuff. You could be talking to somebody those things are not the case. And then really, really emphasizing that you have to focus on the process and learn to love the process and not necessarily love the results. MC, we were talking about this before, like, you brought up a good point about, like, the results are going to happen.
Yeah, the results will happen. It's just you have to trust the process in order to get there.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like the results just are never going to happen. They'll happen. But if you're not trusting the process, then
You'll fall off the bus.
Maybe they won't. And they certainly won't happen as quickly.
But simply what we're talking about is simply by showing up, they'll get better.
Absolutely.
You just have to manage that so that they understand what a real timeline looks like.
Well, and we didn't go over this, but newer athletes, they PRing all the time because they've never lifted a bar, they've never done a deadlift in their life. So to them, every day is a victory. So, like, when you were talking about celebrating those things, like, celebrate it.
Yeah.
All the time. Because that's what keeps them coming back,
yeah.
too.
You gotta love it. It's gotta be the best hour of their day.
That's right.
Cool. All right, guys. If you have any questions about this profile or any of the scenarios that we've kind of dealt with here at CrossFit Rife, please put that stuff in the comments. If you like this content, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Bye.